Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Maria. Welcome to Mosaic Maria channel. Happy Columbus Day and happy World Mental Health Day. So today what I wanted to talk about is mental health. And I want to focus specifically on a topic that is very rarely spoken about, and it's twofold, and that is lying to oneself and lying to others, and how that looks in all mental challenges, disorders, labels, and how it just adds to the murkiness, but it's there and it needs to be known that it's there. And then talk about something called the locus of control, which Julian Rotter researched back in the day, 1950s, 60s, and really began to look at two things: why people lie, why they believe what they believe, but also how reward and punishment comes into play with that. So you could go all the way back to Pavlov's theory with it. You could really run with it, but um, more of a social um, look at psychology and mental health and cultures and belief systems and self-efficacy and self-determination, self-actualization, and resilience. What we have to pull from in our internal resources, what we internalize, and what we have externally to look at and say, well, that's external, not me, not here, and what we do with it. So in every mental health label that you can find in the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of disorders, I believe it's the revised 5 now. In every single mental health label, there are too many to name, but beginning with anxiety disorder, depression, mood disorder, personality, all the big cluster B, A, triad, dark personality, all the things that are in there, to the little things, to the big things, to quirks, to tics, um uh to being on the autistic spectrum, schizoaffective disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar, all of it. What every single one of these mental health challenges, labels, or disorders, however you choose to see them, including dissociative identity disorder, multiple personality, what it used to be called, and dissociative features, panic disorder, agoraphobia, flashbacks, triggers, and trigger warnings up the yin yang. It really comes back to our locus of control. Now, locus of control is what we choose to focus on in an end result in any situation. So say I study for a test right now. I'm given a manual to study, and every day I study it, and I go to take the test, and I feel really prepared. I feel like, okay, I don't have to study the night before, because you know what? That would be overstudying, and I'm not going to do that. I know that would bring me over the edge and clutter my mind, and I'm going to relax now because I have really studied. Okay. You've got it put to memory, you know all the scenarios, whatever. But you flunked the test. I flunked the test. Now, I could look at everything that happened that morning when I was preparing for the test and everything that happened that night before. I could look at the person that was giving the test, the environment of the classroom of the test, and say, that professor didn't give me time to turn my manual over and fold my hands. That professor didn't let me sharpen my pencil when I needed to. That professor didn't let me use my calculator. My calculator was going slow. I The traffic was crazy. The bus wasn't on time. I could look at all that. And some of it might be. But unless I look at internally the questions I didn't prepare for, or maybe I'm not good at list questions, maybe I'm better at multiple choice. There were more list questions, or maybe I didn't give the best answer, and it had to be the best out of it, like the best answer to the least best answer or whatever. Maybe in those kind of things, I don't do well, and I don't own up to that. That is my locus of control. It's in every part of our life. It's in job, how well we learn, how well we execute direction, how well we follow up. It has to do with our health and our daily functioning every day. So whether you've been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder and been given a whole bunch of meanings for why all of your alter aspect egos exist, why they're there, why they make sense in your world, or you're in a post-recovery abuse situation, and now you've been explained, you've been told, well, this is why you behave this way, and this is why this trigger affects you this way. You could stay in that external saying, well, this triggers me and that triggers me, and because of this, that, and apply meaning to everything. And your locus of control would be external, which is not entirely bad, but it fares worse for people than when they're internally, their locus of control is internal. So the way Julian Rotter first started thinking about this, and then also, I believe, Dr. Adler also looked at this, was why do people pathologically lie? Why do they compulsively lie? What would cause a person to lie in mental illness? And what they found is that every person that is depressed, anxious, um, has mood disorders, personality disorders, thought disorders, and even on the autistic spectrum, even schizophrenic, even definitely substance abuse and um, alcohol and dissociative features, we are all lying to ourselves and we are lying to others. What they also found is that many clinicians and therapists are have to allow us to lie and be a part of that lie in order to kind of do the analysis to see what's going on. The best example I have of this is recently in the news, and I hate using this example, but it's such a good one, is Nicholas Cruz. Nicholas Cruz is identified as the Parkland shooter. I don't like to call him the Parkland shooter because to me he's the Parkland murderer. We watched, if you watched the trial, you watched him go through every mental health disorder in the DSM and exasperate all the symptoms to the worst case scenario, including all of his physical ailments. He started with he was adopted, to he was a fetal alcohol syndrome baby, and all that could happen with that, to one person thought he had ADHD when he was younger. He had it for a while. He was on medication. So he went to that, to he really believed in God and he would never do this, but evil, his altar would. So he thought he was DID. So he really just ran the gamut of everything, developmental disorder, everything, and lied and faked and falsified and had no internal locus of control. It's all external. This happened to me. I was born this way. My mother drank. My parents left me. I was adopted. My mother died. It just went on and on and on. Okay, so what Dr. Adler and Julian Rotter found is that people that are diagnosed with mental health disorders really have to harness their internal uh, locus of control. They have to look at, what can I do different in my life to manage this? What is a reasonable thing for me to ask others to put up with? And what what am I accountable for? Now that I know this, now that I know I get depressed, maybe some people have SAD and they get depressed in low energy in the winter. How do you prepare for it? Can you prepare for it? Maybe you're a person that believes it's the sunshine. Can you give yourself ultralights, extra vitamin D, and just prepare for it? Or does everybody have to succumb to realizing, oh, it's winter, so he is going to be sad? I've talked about this before. I have the opposite. In the wintertime, my energy level is off the Richter scale, amazing. I sleep better. I feel better physically. And in the summertime, I go the opposite way. So sad can go both ways. And we don't talk about that too much either. But we don't talk about lying. People with mental health disorders lie. We lie to ourselves. We believe lies. We believe what other people tell us the behavior is. And we believe their opinion matters more and they're experts. And then we believe the worst case scenario and we continue on in that. And so the locus of control looks at, let's say I just said test. Okay, so let's say, let's think of another thing. Let's say I go on a diet. That's a good one because I'm always on a diet. Or some kind of new meal plan. So I already know, in my heart of hearts, I know that if I lose some weight, I reward myself. Now, do I over reward myself? Because Julian Rotter looked at this originally for how do people go about once they know a reward or a punishment for what they believe. So if I believe I did well, I lost weight, and now I can eat and overeat, who am I hurting? I'm sabotaging my own self. I'm going to gain it back. If you are a person that believes everything is a God thing, there's no coincidence, it's a God coincidence. We hear this all the time. That may be true. But is everything that's happening to you supernatural? God just happened to be thinking of you. No, there's something wrong with your brain if you're thinking that. Quite frankly, if you think a natural event that went strange is supernatural all the time, and that's always your locus of control, that's your focus, that's externally, God did that, then you're not taking any personal ownership for what's going on in your own life. So what I wanted to really focus on today in World Mental Health Day is that we have so much more control of our life and our behavior and our feelings and our emotions and how they're expressed in the now that we don't give ourselves credit for. Oftentimes people fall into default lying. And one of the things I hope the DSM Diagnostic Statistical Manual, it always kind of comes up when the committees get together to revise the manual. It should lying be part of a criteria of mental illness? And many people believe it should be because um, if you look at a situation where a person is a substance dependent usage person or a um, obsessive compulsive kind of behavior or anger management or whatever, they're believing lies. If we look at people that have mood disorders and are depressed, they're believing the worst case scenario. Or anxiety is catastrophic thinking. You're thinking the worst case scenario all the time. Or your past experience, the external, the past experience, what happened before, you have based your future uh, thoughts on. And this can happen around the family dinner table, family folklore, just hearing about a family member. This can happen among siblings. Say a child, um, their older brother is always with his hands caught in the cookie jar, right? So now you're going to go try to take a cookie and you're going to blame it on the one mom and dad always find stealing the cookie. So um, it's a very fascinating look at mental health and how we can socially and emotionally on our own uh, only control so much out there, and we can only try to internalize so much, and we can only externalize so much. But there are people that will blame everything. It's not just not taking personal responsibility. People learn this. They learn from children um, that it's okay to lie about this, but not this. That this case scenario would be the worst, so you lie about it. You don't bring it up. Like don't ask, don't tell, kind of thing. It really is kind of cuckoo, but we all do it. Therapists will take in information from client, patient, participant, consumer, life coaches too, and be a part of the lie by not intervening and poking holes sooner. But eventually, a good therapist, life coach, will listen to all of a person's behavior and reasons or excuses or what they believe happened. And the therapist will hopefully give a third option, like say, okay, wait a minute. That didn't internally that was happening, right? This is only what you can control internally is this much. Own up to this, be accountable, apologize, learn from it, change your behavior, or do a different course, do something different, right? Learn. Um, this course was not good. Don't go down that path again. But if you keep looking at, well, there was a stone in the road and I tripped on it. There was a pothole. There was ice. There was um, the fog was okay. There's some things you can't control. I can't control. If there's a hurricane, how much can we control about it? We didn't cause the hurricane, and it can still destroy our life, our loved ones' lives, and cause a lot of pain. We see that in Florida. We see what's going on now. We see hurricanes in Puerto Rico. We see, okay, so there's things we can't control. A person that is locus control focused to the external will worry too much about the outside. There's only so much we can control. So the external, for a hurricane, what could you prepare for? Did you know in advance the hurricane was coming? Could you have gotten flashlight, water, first aid, turned on your faucet, filled your tub with water, done all the things, boarded up your house, sandbags, or evacuated? Could you have done that? Um, and then, or what if a tornado just came out of nowhere? There was no warning. Then what do you do in that? How prepared are you? What do you do in that moment to make it better? And when it comes to mental health, it really is harnessing all we can do, all we know we can do to manage and keep our health well, and then not blaming and looking to the outside externally. So it's a really just an interesting take on mental health, um, and what we believe. So it comes back to self-determination, what we believe. If we believe we're broken, we will stay broken. If we believe we're stigmatized and we are disabled, we will stay stigmatized and disabled. If we believe we're bad, we're no good, we're not to be out with other people, we're not to be, if we believe we're shunned, we'll shun ourselves. So shine a light on yourself today because it's World Mental Health Day. And I know Mama Earth's mental health is not doing well right now. She's all over the place, weather-wise, that's for sure. And pissed off at all the chemicals in our environment and everything else. So today I just wanted to say if you were diagnosed with anything, I don't care what it is, and I'm talking to people with dementias. There are people with alcohol dementia. There are people with old age, senility dementia. There are people with vascular dementia. Maybe you had a heart attack. Maybe you have hardening of the arteries. There are people with Alzheimer's. There are people with ADHD. There are people with auditory processing deficit. There are people with dyslexia. There are people on the autistic spectrum. And very much so, when these behaviors erupt, there's this thought that every person has that they can't control it, that it's just going to be this way, that our triggers are just going to come out of nowhere. We're going to have a flashback, and we're not responsible for another alter aspect, ego of our personality taking over and behaving. That's what we've been told with MPD, multiple personality, and DID, dissociative identity disorder, right? We've been told we can't control it. We don't know. We don't know. We've been told with post-traumatic stress disorder, we will have triggers. We will have flashbacks. The past will always come up and nip us in the butt. What are we going to do? Avoid everything? Because right now on YouTube, on internet land, in network, whatever, there's so many words we can't say. You'd have to have a trigger warning and an asterisk or whatever in everything, and that is censoring. So how much are we censoring ourselves if we've been given any kind of mental health diagnosis? How much are we censoring ourselves? How much are we internally not willing to look at what we do, what we can change, what we can fix every day, what we can decide, I don't want that anymore. I'm going this way. Um, how much are we going to keep saying the dog ate my homework? The professor put that on my test deliberately. I didn't do that. God did it. Oh my God. It's supernatural. It's a it's a supernatural event. Um the, it goes back to socially what we believe, what we've been taught from religion, politics. People blame the government, people blame God, people blame each other, people blame their mother. It goes on and on. Their mama, their daddy, all the way back to Adam and Eve. It just and it revisits each generation because it's learned, it's heard, and it's our locus focus of control. What we choose to control, as we choose not to control. So there are external and people that externally are more that look outward and say that did it. I'm this way because I I was born this way. I'm that way because I have this or that. External. Okay, now that you know that, what can you do internally to help yourself? Um, so that's what I wanted to say. Help yourself today. Um, realize that everybody lies to themselves and that what we believe is what we are and what we choose to believe from others. So if you always heard, wait and have your own experience with a person. If you maybe you have an uncle or an aunt that their opinion means everything to you. You just adore them. And they have an opinion about something, and now you start to take on that opinion, but you don't have any real experience of. And this happens with memories. It happens with false memory, which I'm going to talk about in another video, and substituting a false memory for a real memory that would hurt a loved one more, that would actually destroy your nuclear family more. So you pivot to another person that did something. So we're going to talk about that too, because there's a whole lot of people that are stuck in false memories and false accusations because they've been given permission to go there by a person's condition or their past behavior. So, and then I'm going to talk about how therapists and clients can very much have this subtle dance they do together, um, and it's in order for the clinician to gain the client's patient, participant, consumer, like coaches included, to gain your client's trust, to be that open source that they can spill to, that sounding board without judgment. So you might have to believe some lies for a little while, kind of act like, okay, and then you go in and you start to knock down the untruths, the falsehoods, and get to the truths that are really there, which really is not blaming someone else, but is saying, okay, that might have happened and or that did happen, but what do you do with it now? So the locus of control is really, really important, and clinicians are always kind of like rambling around. Should we put the locus of control, which is at the center of every of self-determination and resilience, should we add to that that people believe lies? Analysts, therapists, clinicians believe lies and even lie to themselves about their patient, client, participant, and they lie about labels that they have to put on people. They kind of say, okay, well, this person's gearing towards this, so I'll put that down as a diagnosis. But in their heart of hearts, they're not really there yet. They don't. It's not cemented with them. Tests, observation, family history, everything. It's it's not really the mental disorder that they're putting down sometimes, but that's the choice they have. So what we know is that every person, whether you've been diagnosed or not, a mental health disorder, lies to yourself when needful. It's part of denial, part of survival. And when you're able to start chipping away and becoming more self-actualized about the truth, you will. And be gentle with yourself because you'll want to be like, oh, I did not see that. Why was I believing that? Well, oh, don't beat up on yourself. Just move forward. So very fascinating little topic that a lot of people, I don't think I hear many people talk about it. And I took a lot of social psychology. Being a social worker, I took a lot of social psychology. So the locus of control was spoken about a lot. What is the motivation here? Where did it come from? What are they gaining? What are they avoiding? What are they denying? What is the thing that's shaming them? What family member do they need the love from so they're not going to go against what they believe? They're not going to hurt them. Um, who's the family scapegoat that it's easier to blame that person than to say that golden child there did that? What and it goes on, like the cookie jar. No, it wasn't me. It was so and so. He always takes the cookies. So I really just wanted to talk about that for World Mental Health Day. And I hope everyone can look at everything more open-minded, non-judgmental, and give everybody space and grace uh, to have their own sacred space and hold space for them too, and just be less judgmental and stigmatizing to others because you don't know, we don't know, we really don't know what people are going through. We don't know what untruths they've believed. We don't know what falsehoods have become cemented in their minds that are very hard to break. We don't know. So um, I wish you all freedom from falsehoods. And I wish you all a light and really bright autumn day wherever you are. And to be gentle with yourself and um, realize that everybody has something. You just happen to have a diagnosis. There's a whole lot of people running around that might have more problems than you do. They just haven't been diagnosed. They've never gone to an actual therapist and said, what's wrong with me? Okay, have a nice day, everyone. Bye-bye. And keep your focus and your locus of control balanced.